Look, if we're back on the foreign agent thing, can I tell a funny little story about that?
Yes, go ahead.
So at the time I had this small contract, it had been huge news in Australia. The Australia Foreign Influence Transparency Scheme is very new. In 2019, when it was first created, the first person they went after, the first person that the Attorney General's office in Australia went after was Tony Abbott. He was a former prime minister, conservative, and not liked by the bureaucrats. And they really had it in for him. So he was speaking at the CPAC conference, the Conservative Political Action Committee conference in Sydney, just a speaker at the conference. And he didn't register. And they sent him a letter, an official letter, saying, we want to investigate your activities. You may be forced to register. We want details about how much you're being paid, what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. And they sent a letter to, again, a legal notice to the CPAC organizers saying, we want to know, who is behind your organization, et cetera. Now, the CPAC conference is just an annual conference that's put on, and he was just a speaker at this annual conference. He refused to register. The people at CPAC refused to respond. It became a big political issue in Australia. And okay, there it went. As a result of that prosecution, everybody registered everything. Right? Everyone said, well, if former prime ministers are going to be prosecuted publicly for speaking at a conference, and remember, I'm a permanent resident here. I'm not a citizen. If I were convicted of a foreign influence, error in my paperwork, I could be deported. So everyone started registering everything. And the government then got upset because this registry became meaningless. So they actually contacted me. They were contacting people one by one and saying, please withdraw your registration. So they contacted me. They said, Professor Babones, please withdraw your registration. We've determined that it is not necessary. I said, can you give me an official letter saying that I will never be prosecuted under this? They said, no, we can't do that. But, look, it's fine. Don't register. I said, look, an unwritten promise is not worth the paper it's not written on. If you can't give me, if you can't, that's a famous American saying, supposedly Sam Goldwyn, the movie producer. So, if they can't put it in writing that I don't have to register, I'm registering, because you know what? There's no penalty for registering, and I could be kicked out of the country for not registering. And apparently I wasn't the only one. So they were inundated with registrations under the scheme. It's probably settled down now. But they literally called me and asked me repeatedly, please don't register. And they said they're calling hundreds of people telling us not to register. So it was just very funny. But because they had made a big deal of it, better safe than sorry, right? I don't have a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. And you know what? I can't get in any trouble, except maybe in the Indian media. But I can't get in any legal trouble for frivolously registering. And then because I registered in Australia, I'm a US citizen, which means in theory, the American government could pick up my Australian registration and say, you're a US citizen involving, working as a foreign agent. And so I said, well, you know what? I better register in the US as well. And so I registered in the US because I was registered in Australia. There you go. That's the story of how it all happened.